and welcome to our another panel of Disruption Forum, Future of Finance. Together with me is Yael Barak from Worldpay and Bernard Golko from Solution One Fund. For the next 30 minutes, we will be discussing globalization of apps and financial products. Maybe let's start with a very quick round of introductions. Yael, would you like to start?
Sure, and thank you for having me. My name is Yael Barak. I'm currently Vice President of Product Management at Worldpay. I've been in this fintech payment processing space for about 15 years now, working on very core propositions like card processing, alternate payment methods, all the way to niche verticals, high-risk processing, embedded payments, embedded finance, and omni-channel commerce. Thank you very much for having me today. Looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. And Bernard?
Mateusz, thank you for the invitation and thank you for organizations of the whole event. I'm happy to be here with you guys and to share what I can share, basically. At the moment, I'm responsible in Solution Investment Fund for all the activities related to our investing into venture into multiple ventures that includes fintechs, medtechs, and actually we have just launched one of our key product based on the blockchain technology. I'm responsible in Solution One Fund for the also venture capital. So I'm glad to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I must admit I'm really excited that we will be able to look at this topic from those two perspectives. So both from the, let's say, product organization as well as investors. So I think it's quite a unique opportunity for us today. And I hope you're ready because I would like to do a small to do a small change of the agenda. And when we discussed, we talked about starting with the challenges that the organization might face when going global. But I would like to turn this a bit around and maybe encourage you to do together with us and for our audience this, let's say, thought experiment, and maybe start with the future, as the theme of the event is future of finance. So the first question to you guys, what do you think, 2030, what will be the future of finance when it comes, from the perspective of global market, of globalization, of global products? What are the trends that you are observing now in this space that might that might shape the future? Yael, maybe once again, would you like to start?
Sure. So I think one thing that I am seeing go across all of fintech, financial services, technology in general, is first and foremost the disappearance, or not disappearance, but traditional railways and traditional schemes becoming more interchangeable, maybe over time obsolete. I think the introduction of cryptocurrencies is something that proved to us that borders and country rails and schemes maybe are not fit for purpose anymore for a global world where you want to move money quickly and avoid maybe costs of exchanging currencies, and you can do that at scale and you can do that securely. Of course, there's other questions about regulatory environment, but it can be done. So I think once the cat is out of the bag and you show that it can be done, now we have all the smart people in the world thinking about how it can be done, and I'm sure that we will at some point see this start to become more of a mainstream productization of this concept. Similarly, I see the same things in actually physical commerce. Is consumers don't care anymore how they can pay within a context of a commerce scenario. I have a device in my hand that can be a point of sale. So wherever I go, I just want to use this, and I don't care really what's in the store or the restaurant or online. So I think it's a similar thing. It's technology making everyday actions ubiquitous and not dependent on constraints of schemes and rails and frameworks that are maybe part of the past.
So I'm taking those notes here, and two main things you're betting on is crypto, and secondly, let's say going more and more into digital and this physical digital differences are less significant.
Betting on consumer behavior. I'm betting on the fact that once you make something easy for human beings, they don't want to go back to it being hard. So crypto, I think, is still very nascent in its application of use cases, but it's proving how easy things can be. And once that gets out of the bag, the demand for easy is going to be there. You're going to have to build into it.
Awesome. And Bernard, what would be your bets? What are the trends?
I fully sympathize with Yael when it comes to the change, because the only constant thing that we observe nowadays is change. If you take a look, for example, on Raymond Kurzweil law of decelerated returns, you will observe that this change is getting faster and faster. What I would not agree with Yael, actually, is that the blockchain is simple at the moment. We are struggling with this like crazy from the perspective even how you can use it. I believe that it should be much simpler, and it will be much simpler. But nowadays, what I observe when you are asking me about the future, I believe that we are observing the beginning of maybe not a war, but big struggle between CBDC, so local governments entering our pockets, basically even more deeper, and on the other hand, this struggle of new technologies that disrupt, that actually our politicians and other decision makers, they tend to leave aside because they don't fully understand, or they cannot embrace it fast enough. So we observe right now that there are like two speeds, and those two speeds will clash. This is what I think. When you look what is being pushed through, for example, in US, like 2 or 3 days ago, this bill that actually stopped legislation towards CBDC on the one hand. On the other hand, US is one of the most developed markets, especially when it comes to the digital disruption. So we already observed that people, they are waking up. They see that Orwell vision of the world may be closer than we expect. And I believe that this will be something worth observing for sure. That it's that the easy times and the times of slow pace are behind us. So the future will bring more and more waves of the new disruptive technologies, but not only from the technology perspective, but from social change perspective in particular.
So that kind of paints a picture of what's the possible future. And then what I would like to ask you is once again, from the perspective of this globalized world, let's say, maybe deglobalizing a bit, but I wouldn't like to venture too much into politics. But let's say this trends of globalization, and maybe companies going global and broader when it comes to the services and products. What are the challenges from your perspectives, two different perspectives that either your organizations or the organizations that you know of will be facing? Maybe starting with Bernard this time.
I will gladly share the view of investment fund, because what we are doing, we are investing into small companies, medium-sized companies, and our expectation is naturally to have as less as possible when it comes to the risk, and as much as possible when it comes to the revenue. So, but still, when you are observing not only Polish companies, but companies from, in general, Central European region, I would say, you will see that still lots of companies, they are so in love with their products, and they tend to forget about the validation of the product. So when you are asking me, for example, about the key challenges when it comes to the globalization, I would say that nowadays we need to mind the statistics. Basically, I'm a numbers-driven person, and when you take a look why companies, why startups, so why our customers, in fact, funds customers, why they are failing, basically, we still observe that they've got great product. At least they think that they've got great product, but there is no market need for this product. So still, even though we have these methodologies of building the startups like agile technologies, agile methods that actually tells you that at the very first you need to test this. You need to show at least a presentation, at least tell the story to your customers to validate the product. We still see that if you take a look at Google statistics, CB Insights statistics, number one is still no market need. The second one is run out of cash, so that's why we are on the market, and that's why we are so happy that European Union is one of the biggest partners for companies like ours to feed the market with extra cash. Because Yael, this may be something for you, for example, something that you might not know, that we are totally opposite when it comes to the European Union. To the US market or Israeli market. Because in US markets, 80% of the startups, they are built with the love money, with the own money of the family and the startupper himself or herself. But in Poland or in CEE region, we still observe that 70-80% of the startups are being built with either government money or European Union money, because we couldn't build enough wealth basically in our pockets. So when you are 40 or 50 and you would like to invest in something, you still don't have enough money to risk. So, and the last but not least that I wanted to mention is not whatever beautiful idea is brought to our table, we always look at the founder, because the biggest challenge is always with people, with execution. If there is no right team basically, and right team working together towards the same goal, then it means that even though when the startups will start being built, when people will start working on this, later on there will be different visions, there will be fight, and we've seen for too many times beautiful ideas that are scrapped because the team could not work together basically towards the same direction.
Thank you. And the same question would go to you, Yael. I think you have a different perspective, because you are already on a global market. You're leading a product that is on so many markets. What do you think are the challenges that the products are facing on the global market?
Yeah, I think the challenges are actually the same, except for the risk level is different, right? Probably, if I fail with a product of mine, the company probably doesn't fail, but it's the same type of risk. You have to have sound strategy going in, but in terms of execution, I fully agree. I think execution is where most people fail. There are plenty of people out there smart enough to have good strategy, and then execution is where the human element comes in. And starts, meddling with how you go about making things happen. And so I think having a good framework for execution, which means knowing what your milestones are and what you expect to reach in each of them, measuring your progress, and knowing from the beginning what progress you want to measure. So as I launch on a new iteration of a product, or if I'm trying to launch a product from zero, I want to know from the beginning what my validation points are going to be, so that if I end up not going in that direction of my assumption, I can pivot quickly. And I think a lot of very successful startups, if I get back to that segment, have pivoted a couple of times before they found their real market fit and their scale and their success. So you have to have the honesty and the humbleness, probably the humility, to say, okay, this thing that we thought was the best idea ever, maybe there's a kernel in it that we can still use, but we need to pivot in another direction because the assumption is just not coming to life. If I speak from more of the perspective of, let's say, a company like Worldpay, which is at massive scale. We're really enabling this population of whether it's a startup or a mature business. For us, it's the same question. We need to think in our strategy, where should we go next, or where do we need to build and develop that enables the biggest amount of opportunity for our clients and therefore for us. So there's always decisions to make. There's always again the setting up the right milestones and KPIs and measurement of success, meeting them. And the execution is usually a bit more meticulous from the point of view of we enable the compliance of our clients. We enable the regulatory risk that they're operating in. So we really need to be precise about that. We enable their data privacy. So those are things you really can't make a mistake on. But where you innovate and where you're a visionary of, how do you help them maximize access to a certain market in terms of the rails that they can access maybe, or the efficiency of those services and therefore the cost of those services. That's where we bring our magic and, the strength of people on our team to be able to put the right strategy in place and execute on it.
So a small follow-up to that. I wanted to ask you a bit more about because we are covering here now so far kind of like a, let's say, first principle. It's like you need to have a market fit, for example. You need to have a great product in order to scale it, basically. Regardless whether you're like a early stage startup or a big organization introducing a new product. But let's assume that this is like let's say a foundation. Like you need to have a great product that there actually is a need on given markets. How to assess, if you're a leader that is thinking about, okay, what's next? What should be our strategy going global, or expanding on a domestic market? What are the characteristics of readiness of such product team or the company organization to consider in such a decision-making process?
Yeah, so I think, again, depending if you're like B2C, B2B, there are going to be different considerations. But I think the big buckets are going to be, first of all, is my customer the same or similar customer in those other expansion markets? And therefore, I can assume that my product, has a good fit. So the customers have the same need. Is there a difference in the regulatory environment that would necessitate me to make big changes in either my product set or my operating model, for example? There are maybe smaller considerations on how do I localize my product for different markets. If it's a software product, does it need to be supported in different languages? Those are, I think, and then of course, who are my partners that enable me in going to that market? If you're working in the fintech space, then who is going to, open up those rails for me, maybe to collect the payment, to move money, to do whatever I need to do with funds. How much do they know? Can I use one partner to enable me in multiple markets and therefore, achieve some level of scale? Those are I think those are the big buckets in thinking about global expansion.
Cool, thank you.
Finance is
actually, this was a question that I wanted to direct more to Bernard, as you are representing, let's say, an investor side of the equation. I guess the finances and how to finance your global expansion is also an important question. From your perspective, how should organizations, how should startups, product organizations go about figuring out how to finance this globalization, this expansion, and how to approach basically a planning process as well? Do you have any tips from the investor side? Like when you are, I assume you're reviewing also some of the plans or some of the proposals from the companies that actually are looking for funding.
One of my startup got a financing from investment fund from Israeli, And the CEO of the investment fund, he told me that as a CEO, I need to do 3 things only. Number 1, I need to always promote my brand. Number 2, I need to always look for better people to my organization. It doesn't mean that I need to replace them. It means that I always need to have possibility to fast enough acquire right personnel, talented personnel. And number 3, always look for money. When it comes to money, because this is something that you asked for, it's basically aim high. What we observe in Poland is that Poland is a country big enough that we, on many occasions, tend to forget that there is a bigger picture beside Poland. And we stay in this trap of mediocrity. So basically, while looking for possibility to ascend, to possibility to go to the broader markets and looking for money, it's always best to do one thing only at the very beginning, to make sure that the company is international right from the start. Even if we are operating in Poland, anybody who was migrating their business from Poland to France, to Germany, they hit a wall basically until they installed their at least part of their operations in this particular country. That they prove to this country that they embrace the culture, that they embrace the market itself, that they are more dedicated. And when you are talking to big investment companies worldwide, they always try to see that the DNA of the company is international, that it's not only local product that wants to be sold somewhere outside, but there is a broader vision on the side of the company, of the founder, that he knows what is precisely needed to go abroad and how to spend their money wisely. What I mean, basically, I fully sympathize what I've just heard from Yael. It's basically that there is a working business model on one hand, but on the other hand, that you have happy customers, that you understand the culture, and that you understand not only that you will manage something remotely. I'm a big fan, basically, of feeling the culture being placed in this particular culture. This is how I've been taught by the companies or my mentors that I used to work with, that basically if you want to make company global, you need not only to think global, but to experience what it means to be global. So if you want to start working with a particular country, you need to be there, or at least you need to have someone, an expert, high enough in the hierarchy of your organization that will drive this change, because this is a major change when it comes to the local company versus international company. Money-wise, you will always find money if you will prove that your product is needed on this particular market. Money-wise, you will always find money if you will prove that your business model works, and that you can, instead of making money from the PLN perspective, Polish zloty, you can switch to euro and earn 4 times more, for example, because you will still rely on local development here in Poland, but you will have your presence also in this particular market and sell there, and you will prove that you are dedicated to this particular market. Last but not least, I had the privilege to be responsible for bringing Vistaprint, $3 billion capitalization US company, to CE region, to Poland in particular, to Czech Republic. And the biggest part of this story, basically, from the perspective of this company, was bringing people together. Yes, we've been located in Barcelona, but they didn't work as a separate team that was selling something to particular countries. On frequently basis, every month I was back to Poland. I was working with local partners. I was feeling the heartbeat of the market. So basically, understanding the heartbeat of the market is the key.
So I'm glad to hear that money is not an issue, that you will always find money. That's a good news for everyone that are considering.
If you have a good business, you can do it. Yes, always.
Of course. And I would like to use the what you said about like being local, like this local presence, and I would like to use it as a segue to actually to ask a question to Yael, because look, when we talked before the event, I've counted twice. You are present, like your services are available and present in more than 80 countries. So I assume the complexity of regulatory issues, the culture, etc., is tremendous. And I wanted to also utilize a moment that we have to kind of discuss with you the actual operational aspect, like how to structure this project of going global. Do you need a team locally? What are the trade-offs? What are the considerations to make?
Sure. I think my experience has been when you are trying to go global, again, probably changes depending on what your product is. I can speak for a fintech, for example. When you're trying to go global, typically the lowest risk you can take is partnering as step one. Right? You find some local company in the market you want to go into that can provide the services that you want to provide, and you use that as a proof of concept. To prove out that you can actually go to that market, that you understand the customer, as we just discussed, that you can set up your infrastructure, your local entities, your maybe finance operations, things that the bones that basically you can then build on top of. And then when you launch into that market with the partner, is your opportunity to get some early learnings on what it means to be live in that market. Maybe you not quite accurately predicted the business model, the margins, the overheads, right? Once you're comfortable that you have your model in place and your conviction is strong, and you still believe that the market is a good opportunity, now is when you go and optimize. Now is the time to figure out, do you want to set up your real local operation? Do you want feet on the ground? Do you want feet on the ground for every type of function, or maybe some functions can be done from home office? So I do think a gradual approach is probably the most beneficial, because again, it allows for learning and adaptation and pivoting, and maybe you'll even get to the conclusion that this market is never going to be strong for us. I'll just keep that partner there because I need some coverage, and I'm not counting on that for my financial growth. It's the thing, in payments, we always joke that there are certain payment methods that you have to close a sale, even though you know that you're not going to get any revenue out of them, because unless it's there on the menu, it's like walking into a restaurant and they don't have desserts. Even I never order desserts, but am I going to walk into a restaurant that doesn't have? Probably not. So it's kind of like it's good common sense business strategy. So I think that iterative approach is what I have seen is most successful.
Awesome, thank you. And before we finish, once again, a similar question to Bernard, because you said that you were working a lot with startups. How to when they are considering, or when you are advising those organizations, okay, you should go beyond your domestic market here. How to choose the first one? Because the obvious answer is maybe go for US because of the size, the wealth, etc.
Market, you mean?
Yeah. Because before you will go global on 80 markets, which one is the first?
I will be heartless. I would say mathematics, because if you have possibility to test your product on particular market and confirm the market need and market fit. If there is a fit for the market and there is a right competition level, then it means that you should enter as soon as possible, at least to try. But this is all about cultural change, and this is all about readiness. I believe that if I can leave you with three things only that I'm looking always in terms of readiness in the companies, it's diversity, because I'm understanding that diversity is bringing additional value. It's the possibility to enable people for intelligent failure, because this is a stopping stone for a change. If people know that they can fail fast, fail cheap, and learn, they will know what not to do later on. Last but not least, risk management, always risk management. So mathematics, right research, and then test before invest.
Thank you. And let's use it as a punchline. We ran out of time. Thank you very much, Bernard. Thank you very much, Yael, for accepting our invitations and for sharing your thoughts, experiences, and like a painting for us a picture of brighter future in finance. Thank you very much.